Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, May 14th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen, alongside Joe Sarvati, who's affectionately known as Coach. Here we are, Coach, on the final Friday of the regular season. We have 8 games. It's a real interesting slate because, to me, 8 of these teams want to win, and their opponents all either don't care or want to lose. And we've got a bunch of big spreads, no totals over 230. Are you ready to dive into it?
Well, I'll tell you, I've already made the decision. I'm putting my hard hat on and I'm going to, grin and bear it today. And even this weekend's going to be the same thing. It's going to be just like you said. We're going to have such an incredible mixed bag of tricks of, teams playing teams that want to win and don't want to win, and all of this, craziness going on. And a lot of it happens, as the games play out. So, they see what their opponent does, then they may need the game or not need the game. So, man, I'll tell you, it's not for the weak of faint of heart for sure. But let me put a positive spin on this, Andrew. We have an advantage here. As much of I've got the Tylenol and the Advil and everything out here because it is a pain in the neck here going through these games and figuring out all those combinations. But let's utilize it for an edge. We're certainly going to plan on sweeping through the weekend. We've talked about it in Discord at Coach Talk, and we're looking to just kick some butt, use every advantage we can in knowing the players, the rotations, the coaches. And I'll tell you, if there were ever a time to have an advantageous edge, it's what we do here at DFS Coach Talk, because we hand build and walk through these lineups. And if you ever wanted any type of situations to completely jack up an optimizer, it's these situations these next 3 days. So, man, as crazy as it is, and as intense that all these changes are, I love it because it's going to give us an edge, and I think we're going to crush it.
Yeah, I can't wait to build the GPP lineup tonight because there's a lot of young guys playing who we've been watching and monitoring, and they're cheap, and we're going to be able to play them today. And like you said, have a huge edge. So I'm ready to get after it if you are.
I'm ready.
8 games. You get the only 7 o'clock game, Cleveland and Washington.
Okay, and there we are right off the bat. Cleveland's mailed it in. Washington is still jockeying for their spot. So, as of now, Beal, we know, is out, which is huge news because, that leaves the whole Westbrook scenario in place. And then for Cleveland, Garland and Osman, we don't know exactly what their status is going to be. We will follow that news. And Hartenstein and Stevens are out. So, the big $1 million question, Andrew, is, Westbrook or no Westbrook. And I'm back on the Westbrook train here. I think with a day's rest and the fact that it's a terrible Cleveland backcourt, if the only problem that we have to cross our fingers on is, does it blow out? And even with that though, I know to pay his salary. I mean, I'm just looking for 5x from Westbrook at that price, but that 5x number is huge. So I still think he's really a guy to start your lineup with. I like him. He's playable to me. As far as the secondary guys for Washington, I mean, I hate to say it because he put a knife through my heart, but Chandler Hutchison's getting more minutes. He's a possibility. Howell Neto has done decently in some of these backup roles now, not backup roles, starting roles, now that he's getting a few more minutes. But remember, Ish Smith's still in the mix there. And Hashimura, he's sort of a running mate for Westbrook. And, I always like to take a look at him at his cheaper price. And then, the Cleveland side, if Garland is out, Sexton is definitely playable. I mean, he gets it done, and I think he gets motivated to play the great ones like Westbrook's one of his heroes. So I think he's a guy that you want to look at. How about the game from Kevin Love last time, though?
Yeah,
oh, my
vintage
gosh.
Kevin Love.
Where did that come from? I mean, I think a lot of people will try to chase that game, and it scares the heck out of me, man. I know Washington's the fastest paced team in the league, but geez, who's to trust, that is the question. So for me, it's probably just going to be, Westbrook and probably one of the value guys from Washington, and maybe Sexton with Garland sitting. But after that, I just don't quite trust the bigs with some of the rotations of the, what the coaches are doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar here. Westbrook definitely in play. I'm going to keep playing with the lineups to see, how everything else looks like when you adjust for his high salary versus
Right.
if you go down a notch. Are you stronger across the board, and is that more likely to be high scoring? That's really the analysis of the day, I think. And the secondary options are, for me, the same ones that you mentioned. And then with Cleveland, I agree completely. Sexton, potentially, especially if Garland's out. Love, he's tempting here. Whatever lit that fire for him. 30 and 14, that's the old school Kevin Love, and he's only in the
Crazy.
6K range. So this is another great matchup for him. So, he's a potential option. And then if you wanted to get a lower owned guy in this game, you could go with Okoro, who he kind of surprised me. Another strong game against Boston, 15, 6, and 6. He's more involved. He's getting assists.
Yeah.
So, he's pretty scrappy.
He's playing himself into one of the all rookie teams. He's really quietly improved a lot through the year.
Yep. So a couple guys to keep an eye on in this game for sure. And we'll see how Westbrook follows up his recent performances.
And it's really not going to be difficult for anybody that's building a lineup to get a price guy like Westbrook in there, because there's 100 value plays.
Yeah, there are a bunch.
So you can make it work,
All right, let's dive into some of them. Starting at 8:00, we've got Denver in Detroit. Denver, the 10-point favorites, 219.5. Lots of low totals here today, Coach. And this is another one of them. With Denver, back-to-back, they took care of Minnesota yesterday. Michael Porter Jr. sat that one out. We expect he'll be back in there. Monte Morris working himself back into the lineup. We expect he will play as well. JaVale McGee got the surprise start last night.
Well, he came through.
Yeah, double-double.
That's wild.
We pivoted to him in a couple lineups. We'll see what happens today. I imagine he'll go back to the bench with Porter Jr. back in the mix. And this is a great matchup for Denver. They're in that 4 spot. They're one of the teams that I don't know how ultra motivated they are to try to get to third. It's interesting. Some of these teams, like the Clippers, are in third in the West. You don't know what discussions they're having behind closed doors about projecting their opponent in the second round. Would they rather play the team that they think is going to finish second and be in that 2-3 spot? Would they rather play Utah potentially in the 1-4? We don't know. So
Right.
These are the couple of teams where I don't think it's clear what their motivation is. Denver and the Clippers. But you do figure if it's a toss-up that they would want to get the 3 seed, because if they win out to the conference finals, then potentially they could have the home court as a 3 against the 4 if that's their opponent. So that's how I look at it. So I think Denver, it may not matter if they really want to win or not. The guys that they put out there are probably going to be better than the Pistons tonight. So bottom line for me is I'm a little nervous to spend big on Denver. Porter Jr. is a good price on FanDuel at 7,600, so he's certainly in play. With Monte Morris back in the mix, the guards, potentially a little crowded, so I may not go there. I'm probably more interested to get one of these Detroit guys because it's very short rotation again. All the guys are out. Frank Jackson, Magruder, Ellington, Joseph, Stewart, Plumlee, Grant. The key question mark here is Diallo. He hasn't played for 10 days. In that last game that he played 40 minutes. He smashed. And he's only 4,600 on DraftKings. So he's a guy that I'm looking at. He's much more expensive on FanDuel, 6,600. One of the rare players that's that much different and that much cheaper on DraftKings. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at him. If he's going to start, he's probably my favorite play here, with huge upside. Killian Hayes is solid. He's more expensive with a lower ceiling, in my opinion, but he's in consideration. Saban Lee also off the bench, especially if they only have a 3 guard rotation. Josh Jackson is the other guy to keep an eye on there. He's much cheaper on FanDuel. And then with the forwards and the bigs, we've got Stewart and Plumlee out, so it looks like it's going to be Cook and Okafor soaking
Yeah.
up all the minutes at the 5. They're really cheap. They're not my favorite players, but because of the minutes, they are 2 of the guys we need to consider as potential value plays today.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point. I mean, the Cook, Dumbuya, and Okafor are really they're 3 bigs, and I think you're going to see all 3 of those guys be potential plays just because they're going to be forced into big minutes. I still think there's enough guards there on the Detroit side if Diallo plays that they could split it up equally. But I'm with you. I agree. I think some of these teams like Denver, they're looking at things similar to several of these teams. How do we want this to land? Where's the best opportunity for us to have the smoothest road to the finals? And that could be very different strategically for each team. But one other point I wanted to make too is the top 6 seeds that have clinched not having to play in that play-in tournament, they get basically an entire week off before the playoffs start. So I think these teams that are bubbled like this, like Denver, do we want to win that badly? I think they play their guys and try to win out because not like 40 minutes, but more than they normally would because of that full week of rest that they know that's coming. So that goes for all the top 6 seeds on both conferences. So for that reason, I mean, you can look at a couple of these Denver guys that you think should smash. I mean, even Capazzo and Rivers, they're both, Rivers especially cheaper, could get decent minutes, but with Morris back, that's a little risky. Gordon stays at that low price. Porter's completely rested. He could have another big game. Not going to spend up on the Joker. I mean, if you're buying up for Westbrook, it pretty much eliminates those other 2 or 3 guys that are super high expensive, like Joker and Embiid for me anyway. So, not thrilled about this game, but may try to get one of the value bigs for Detroit, and then come back possibly with another value guy from Denver, like a Rivers or someone like that. Just because I think guys like that get those extra couple runs, and that can be enough to get them to value. And again, stars and scrubs. I mean, I don't think you can build a lineup that's not stars and scrubs, really. I mean, it's almost impossible with this type of slate. So a little bit of exposure here, but not much.
All right, how about the next 8 o'clock game, Orlando and Philly?
Yeah, I mean, same scenario here. Philly's trying to lock down that 1 seed. They'll get the week off. So, I mean, they've got their guys geared up to play. It looks like probably only Thibault may be out. I don't know if that's official yet. But, other than that, they'll probably have their regular 5 starting. And the question is, how many minutes do they get and how long does it take to blow out this horrible Orlando team, both of which I think could happen quickly. So I'm not going to spend up for the Philly guys. I mean, they have a nice bench now. They're all playing. You're going to get a serious rotation in probably a blowout with all of those secondary guys playing the Maxies and on and on. So not interested in Philly. On the Orlando side, again, with a bunch of their guys sitting out, they really have used this time frame to take a look at some of the younger guys. Bomba's sick and out, so you got a little bit of Wendell Carter, Mo Wagner possibilities. Cole Anthony, I've teetered with playing because his price had gone up a little bit. But, Brizdeikis, those guys are all sort of risky, more GPP plays. Now, some of them, could go 7, 8x if they get the extra run, but, they're just such a shared minutes mode right now and completely don't care about winning. So I don't like this game for those reasons, and very unlikely that I'll get anybody from this game unless I can squeeze in one Orlando guy once we have confirmation on minutes, possibly through a little coach speak or feeds from some of the beat writers.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Philly, I think they're just going to split the minutes, take care of the win, keep everybody healthy, just like they did against Miami. They didn't get the win, but they didn't need it, but they split the minutes. I think they'll do that again tonight on the back-to-back. And then Orlando, again, same thing. They're really splitting the minutes. Cole Anthony, his price is back down on FanDuel at 4,800.
Yeah, that's good to see.
Really tough matchup here. So,
it is.
It is. I'm not planning to use him. Brezdikas is still cheap. He's probably my favorite target here. 27 minutes again, got 14 shots. So
hey, he's our thumbnail today.
All right, let's get him
People
out
are going
there.
to look at the thumbnail and say, "Who is that?"
Yeah, he is a value play among many today.
Yep.
All right, Utah and OKC also at 8 o'clock. We have Utah favored by 13.5, 221.5 total. Mitchell and Morgan still out. Conley questionable. He might get back out there and start to get in shape with that hamstring issue. He will have a minutes limit if he plays. And then on OKC, we have Dort still out, Ty Jerome questionable, and Maladon available. Now, in what is likely going to be a blowout, as OKC just, finishes out the string here, the problem here is that Conley's back in the mix, and we know that the other three key guys we've been looking at, their prices have gone up. Clarkson, Joe Ingles, Bojan. Ingles, couple things here with positions. He's now a shooting guard on FanDuel. Clarkson is now a point guard.
Yeah.
Clarkson's still expensive. Ingles a little cheaper at 5,800, but his usage has been down a little bit, even without Conley. So I don't plan to go with either of those guys. Bogdanovich at 6,200 on FanDuel. I think he could pay that off and just drain threes while he's out there, but not really looking to invest in Utah here. And then OKC, pretty tough matchup. Guys splitting minutes. We don't know who the starting guard will be. Maladon or Jerome, they're both playable at those prices. Roby's really cheap. Moses Brown is cheap, but it's a tough matchup. Your boy Baisley's 5,900 on FanDuel. That's a little tempting if you're looking for somebody in that price range. Kenrich Williams was great when he started as the point guard last time, but I assume he'll come off the bench tonight. So it's really, some guys that are somewhat interesting to me, but really good chance I just pass this game entirely.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this game is very tough. There's going to be a lot of guys playing for both teams. It really is hard to trust anybody from Oklahoma City with the shared minutes and everything that's going on there. I'll tell you, we haven't really paid that much attention to it, but for the last 6 weeks, the Thunder have been historically bad. I mean, they've been really, really bad. They had 20 wins 2 months ago. They have 21 wins now. So, I mean, they've just, talk about mailing it in. It's just amazing how fast they've gone to a non-competitive team. Because that first half, even though they were, undermanned, they still had Horford and some of their guys and Shea, and they were playing teams well. But man, are they bad now. And I can't see how they stick in this game. You did catch it right, though. Bays being sub 6,000 for the first time in a month is very tempting to me, because he only needs that 25 minutes, to hit that number without too much trouble. So I'm going to give him a small look, but not for sure. On the Utah side, with Conley back in the mix, everything really decreases for Ingles, Clarkson, and even a little bit Bogdanovich, believe it or not, because Conley, his usage, makes that move. And then up, and then he likes to get the ball to the bigs a lot, and the one that does get a little bit of value from that is Gobert, based on who's on the court when. And if Conley is going to get some minutes, I mean, it improves him a little bit, but he's not going to get an extended run. There's just no way. So very untrustworthy game. I wish I could play Gobert at center, but at that price, I'm probably not going to do it. Baze gets a little look, but not crazy about it.
All right, well, how about your Mavericks? Are they going to smash Toronto tonight?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, they're a huge favorite, 2-touchdown favorite, basically. And the over-under's just so. We know that Toronto's sitting everybody out that they can humanly sit out. It's hard to say. I mean, Dallas is going to be in a mode where, they want to win the game. They need to solidify another win. So I think they're going to get decent minutes for their regulars. But the problem is, if it does get out of control in the second half, I can't imagine that these guys will get extended minutes. So it makes it very hard. But I'm not going to spend up for Luka. Obviously, he's in the same thing. I'm not sure. I mean, you could, with all the value, play a combination of two guys between Luka, Embiid, the Joker, and Westbrook, but I don't know if you really need to go there. I think, choosing one of those and then, your value plays, you can still get like the Baisleys of the world in there at 5,900 and stuff and have a strong group, as opposed to, we've all been at fault here of trying to stick a guy in there that's just because he's going to get 25 minutes and he's not a good player. We tend to forget that he's not good and expect a guy to go 8x. So I'm going to try to steer from those guys that we're all tempted to put in that just aren't that good. And just because they're getting minutes doesn't exactly mean that they're going to, produce. So that takes Luka out a little bit for me. I do like some of the secondary guys. I think Porzingis, he looked very good. I think he's going to get like 25 to 28 minutes. The progression of him improving. So I think he's in play. His price has come down some. And, obviously it's the second and third string basically for Toronto. So KP, as much as he gets on my nerves, I'm looking at him as a possible play. Tim Hardaway has just shot the absolute eyes out of the basket for the last 2.5 weeks. He's now beat out Richardson for that starting position. And it looks as though, based on some of the talk radio here in Dallas, that's how they're going to go into the season, with a starting lineup of the postseason, I should say. Luka, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, Porzingis, and Powell, which, settles with Richardson and Brunson and Cauley-Stein coming off the bench. So we sort of know that rotation. I think they want to play that these next last two games to get more of that flow, because really Richardson had started almost every game throughout the year. So it's a little bit different. So, for that tiny bit of extra run, I think Hardaway's a decent play. I don't think Finney-Smith's a bad play either, as a cheaper guy. So those guys are all going to get a look from me. I can see going with one of the value Dallas guys, which really, are Hardaway or Finney-Smith, and then possibly Porzingis. So I'm not going to load three of them, but I think they're in a good spot. Now, let me say this. I know I mentioned something, how much Stanley Johnson sucks. Didn't I say that on the podcast?
Yes, and I did not disagree.
If I could reach down and take my foot and stick it in my mouth, I would do it, but I'd break my leg. I cannot believe the game. How in God's name did Stanley Johnson have that game?
Well, he started, then Watanabe got hurt, and they didn't even play Gary Trent. So, yeah. And he finished with 40 something minutes. So,
and Boucher, what happened there?
Let's just dress guys. So we need, hit
it
the
was
number.
So bizarre. I mean, I almost switched to him. I know one of our members, Deluxe, did. And, she had asked me what I thought. And I said, well, let's see what the rotation. Let's see if he's in there and going to play, and we'll figure it out. And it did announce that he wasn't starting, so that was a little concerning. But I didn't expect him not to play. And he and Trent, they never said anything about not playing those guys.
Yeah.
Nurse is I think he thinks he's the next Pop when Pop retires. I think that's what it is. But I'll tell you, man, what do you think's going to happen with Toronto? Who the heck knows? Right now, maybe Boucher starts. Kem Birch has been consistent. We talked about him yesterday, trying to solidify a contract, but I don't know if he gets overplayed. I certainly sure as hell not going to follow. If somebody plays Stanley Johnson, I'm going to just shake my head. I don't know how that was his career game upon career game. I don't think he will ever get close to that again. Trent, if he plays, if he's announced in the starting lineup, could be a decent play. And then, Malachi Flynn is going to run the majority of the point. So, he's in play. So I do, even though it's a 14-point spread, I do have, some decent value on both sides, one or two guys on each side here, which sets it up for me to have, another one or two guys that are in that upper tier of pricing to back up Westbrook for the guns, by just playing a lot of this value. I think this game has potential, Andrew. I really do. And I think I'm going to have some exposure.
I think it has potential, too, for some of the same reasons we liked Chicago-Toronto last night.
Right.
Cannot believe that Levine didn't smash more. They were up 20,
made
so
no
he
sense.
Just didn't need to. So Luka's in play here. Porzingis, is I think worth a consideration on FanDuel, where he's only 6,800. I think you could pay that off. And then Toronto, if it's the same rotation, it's the only downside is that it's a back-to-back and they played heavy minutes. And Dallas is a little bit slower than Chicago. But
right.
Flynn is still a good price. Jalen Harris, Stanley Johnson, and Bembry. I mean, Bembry played 39 minutes off the bench.
I know.
And Yuta Watanabe, he is a key factor here. If he's out again, it's just going to be 6 or 7 guys playing the whole game. And I think Stanley Johnson is a perfect example of somebody who we don't think is very talented. He just hasn't shown it throughout his career. But you get a guy who's at almost minimum price playing 40 minutes, somebody's going to get these rebounds and somebody's going to, find a way to make a few layups here and there. So I think
amazing.
I think these guys, the Raptors, are all in consideration.
It's just scary, though, because you don't know what Nurse is going to do.
Yeah. Although, I guess that's the one consistent thing. It's if he's not going to play Van Vliet and Lowry 43 minutes, then he wants to do it with Flynn and Johnson.
I guess. Yeah. Who knows? It's going to be an interesting game, but I do think there'll be points. I like the over in that game, by the way.
Okay. Excellent. Well, we've got another 9 o'clock game to discuss. It's the Clippers and Rockets in Houston. Another double-digit favorite here for the Clippers at 12, 226.5. Back-to-back for the Clippers, of course. Last night, Kawhi and Paul George played. I'm calling them doubtful. And Ibaka is questionable. He might get back out there and start to
That's wild.
Get some minutes before the playoffs. And then with the Rockets, we still have the same guys out. House, DJ Wilson, Porter Jr., Wood and company. So this one is going to be interesting. If Kawhi and Paul George are out, the guy that I'm looking at is Terrence Mann. I think in these situations, he steps up, he starts, and he's a guy that right in that same price range as Stanley Johnson, who we do think is very talented, and he could easily get 40 fantasy points or more. So I like him.
That I could see.
Yeah. I mean, he's done it before. So I like his potential. We'll see if Kennard starts. He would be the secondary option. But if we still
what about my man? You got to like my man a little bit.
Who's that?
Who's my go-to Clipper when George and Leonard are out?
Yeah, he's, last week or two, he's been sort of cruising along.
Neutral.
He's in neutral right now. So
yeah, but this, when those two are out, he steps it up.
He does, but if they only play him 24 minutes, if he
True.
even plays, I mean, they might sit all three of those guys and start Batum. And
Yeah,
if
you
they
never
do
know.
that, then I would look at Batum. I
Okay.
like it. Man and Batum probably the most if they're starting. Kennard if we get Beverly or Rondo or Jackson sitting. And then with the Rockets, we've got the youth movement continuing. The only veteran really who's out there aside from DJ Augustine is Olynyk, who absolutely looked terrific against the Lakers. 25 minutes, he put up 24, 6, and 8, handling the ball a lot.
Crazy.
He was so. Here's the thing that I'm really wondering is how they break up the minutes tonight with Olynyk and Cam Oliver, because Olynyk played 25, Oliver 23, but Olynyk had 5 fouls. He was in foul trouble, so they may have been planning on more like a 30 to 18 split. But bottom line, I think Olynyk will probably continue to play well while he's out there, but I don't think I want to spend up for him to 8,000. I'd rather invest in Oliver as the backup, cheap again. He's really starting off well. And you know what I really liked about him, Coach? He has soft hands. He caught a
Yeah.
pass in the paint. It was one of those thread the needle bounce passes, and he caught it with his right hand extended, and had a nice finish. So I like
He's got some potential for
his
sure.
makeup. Yeah. So Oliver's a key guy for me potentially, and then Augustine is cheap, but I don't think I'll go there. I'd rather go with one of the other younger guys here, Kyrie Thomas, 37 minutes, or KJ Martin, who got 37 minutes again. They only gave Jayshawn Tate 23. Lamb got
Yeah.
big minutes again, and Brooks. So the bottom line is they're playing these younger guys 36
Right.
minutes plus. So that's the group I'm looking at: Kyrie Thomas, KJ Martin, maybe Brooks, maybe Lamb, probably not. More like Oliver.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, the theme of this podcast and probably the two this weekend are going to be the same. This is a nice little talk through preview. Get your contests saved, create the little shell lineups. But the bottom line is, man, you got to connect with us when it's closer to the time that lock is there, because all of this news is going to come out. Who's starting, who's sitting. And same thing with the Clippers. It could be 100% different than we talk about here based on who's in, who's out. So definitely, take this opportunity to jump aboard. Friday has been our busiest day here at Coach Talk because we get a lot of people jumping in for our 3-day pass, which is only $10. They get all of our Friday stuff, which all of our basketball and baseball, and then our weekend PGA. So you get the whole weekend, then all Saturday and Sunday action as well. So perfect opportunity. If you're looking for a place to land for the NBA playoffs, it is at Coach Talk. I mean, this is our bread and butter. My background, is no secret. I'm a basketball head for sure. And I know Andrew is as well, although he's a big baseball guy too. But we wait for this time of year. This is when we really look to make our money. And we'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing here. So jump in today. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. You can sign up for that 3-day pass. Check us out through the weekend, and you'll see we've got it going, and hopefully stick with us through the playoffs. Now, this thing also, Andrew, I'm going to tease an announcement we're going to make tomorrow. And we have a package coming out here. The playoffs are exactly 2 months long. They go, the rest from May 22nd to July 22nd. And we're going to come out with a brand new package. Really, really great deal for those 2 months. It will be up and ready to be entered on tomorrow. So we'll have that announcement and we'll go over all of that. So again, great time to jump in. And the reason I wanted to plug that in here right at this moment is because this, again, is the reason why you need to be involved with us. Because, yeah, this should give you a head start. And a lot of people work and are busy, and then they have to determine lineups. And it is very difficult figuring all of this stuff out without the news. And the last thing you can do is afford to take, a zero for somebody that sits or somebody that only plays 12 minutes. I mean, you're done before you even get started. So, get involved with us so you can jump in our Discord. We follow the news throughout the day. We'll be posting any updates, anything that goes on. We're going to be narrowing it down so that by the time lock is here, we'll have a very strong lineup built by hand for Andrew and myself that you'll be able to utilize in your single entries, all your cash games, and then we'll have some GPP options for you as well. So, definitely be in touch. Clippers, again, do all those guys sit? Do they not play, or do they play limited? Those are the kind of things we'll find out. If George and Leonard are out, the guys that elevate for me are Mann and Morris. I just think those two guys are the obvious guys to step up and score. Kennard's more risky, but he has done it in the past. So, again, news relevant there. I do have some Houston guys, though, that I'm settled on that I like a lot. I like Kyrie Thomas and Kenyon Martin here. Those are my two targets. I agree with your analysis. What you're seeing now is these final 8 guys that Houston has, they pretty much know what Tate can do, and Olynyk, and certainly Augustine. And Olynyk has been phenomenal. But, I think my gut tells me at his price, it's a little risky with Oliver probably cutting into his big minutes. I know there was foul trouble, but I think maybe it was, not a complete split, but I think they're going to get a little bit more look at Oliver, but not quite enough for me to pull the trigger there, because I do think Olynyk's still going to get minutes. But the guys I feel that are safe for 35, 38 minutes that I'm targeting from Houston are Thomas and Martin.
Here's one of my favorite prices of the year. I got to mention it before we go to the next game. Paul George and Kenyon Martin are the same price today on FanDuel. How about that? Who would have guessed that 6 weeks ago?
Unreal. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at some of the, Olynyk's more expensive than guys that are like multiple all-star guys.
All right, Sacramento, Memphis rematch, Coach. What do you have there?
Oh, man. It's going to be interesting. You've got the scenario here, same as before. Who cares who doesn't, and who's going to play. DeLon Wright's been terrific. Is he going to get the minutes? I'm not sure. There's another guy that's priced higher than some all-star guards now. So you got to swallow his pricing. Buddy Hield's been shooting the ball well. We don't know if Holmes is in. I played Metu yesterday. He did just fine. And if Holmes is out, then I really think Metu is a great value play. You can certainly look there because we don't know what the situation with Bagley is either, so we have to follow that. Harrison Barnes is possibly has the potential to play. So we need this news without question. I think there are a few guys, that you can get at decent prices. But I'll tell you, the more I go through this and start to mentally build my lineup, I like so much value that I may be able to go back and get the second stud that I didn't think I was going to be able to afford, just the way a lot of this is rolling out. So I'm excited to see how this formulates. I don't usually build my lineup before we do our podcast because I want to go through it without bias and just, really see who, I see playing in and out with minutes and opportunity here. So, with guys, that I'm able to roster that are a little bit cheaper, I think is going to give me that opportunity. But on the Memphis side, Ja's been terrific, this whole 3-4 weeks here. But again, they are playing the worst defense in the league, which makes him tempting. But again, we know that coach for Memphis here is a little bit tentative on over minutes for guys, and I know he wants them fresh going in. But I think Ja gets a good run. Dylan Brooks has been playing his tail off. He's interesting. We don't know if Javal's going to play or not. So, is it going to be Tillman's season, SZN, I guess, now that I understand what that means. And, is he coming to play? Because he always usually, steps it up. Kyle Anderson too gets some decent games in there. So I think there's potential here. The pace will be solid. The defense not great on Sack's side. So there are a few value guys and maybe even a pay up guy, depending on how the rest of the news falls out. But it is a tempting game. The over-under's average and the spread is down there to where you would think it's going to be competitive. So some exposure, but not stackable.
Yeah, I agree on that. I don't think I want to pay up for Wright here. I'm a little concerned with how Sacramento responds to losing last night, getting officially knocked out of the playoff race. Do they go a little younger here, get these backups more minutes? I think the best upside here is for the younger, cheaper guys. Metu is one of them.
Yeah.
Even Justin James, who
Justin James went ballistic.
31 points, and he's very cheap. He's a guy that, he obviously has that potential. I haven't liked his output, his consistency, his numbers, and he's sort of like Stanley Johnson, where I wouldn't expect him to hit that number again, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets big minutes and at least gives you 6 or 7x return. So he's a guy that you could get in there to try to get another stud. And then with Memphis, I think they will make sure that they win this one. I don't think it'll be too difficult, and because it's a back-to-back, I'm hesitant to go there. But I will certainly look at Tillman if Javale is out, and put him in the mix.
You never give Metu any love for me. I don't know why you don't like him, huh?
No, he's playable. No.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been trying to convince you him for several weeks, and I don't know why. It's not like he's blowing it out, but I just think he seems to be a guy that can get, steals a lot, blocks, rebounds. I like his potential, and when he gets the minutes, he could be a nice steal here too.
I agree. He's solid. I like his activity, his skills. So he's in the mix.
Good.
All right,
and I'm sure the first time you play him, because I talk you into it, he'll get 10.
Yeah, right. He'll get 10, and Damian Jones will get 35.
Exactly.
All right, last game of the night: New Orleans and Golden State. ESPN game at 9:30. 229 is the highest total on the board here. Golden State only favored by 3. We've got huge news here. Ingram, Adams, Iwundu questionable. I would say Ingram and Adams are more like doubtful. And then Lonzo is out. And with Golden State, all of a sudden we have question marks for Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, and Mulder.
Good Lord.
We have Eric Paschall available to finally get back out there. And Jordan Bell has signed.
Yeah.
He is not available yet on DraftKings. I got to double check on FanDuel. New Orleans is out, of course. So this is, proceed with caution. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I'm looking at him again. He's in that 6K range. And he disappointed with us, with Dallas. I think it's because you were there, Coach. You're strong.
I'll tell you.
You were rooting so hard for Dallas that just couldn't get it done.
Man, I'm lucky I didn't get thrown out for heckling him after that performance.
So he's got a great game environment here with the pace of Golden State. They may not have their strong defenders. And although he disappointed last game, he did play 35 minutes. So, he's the primary guy I'm looking at. Najee Marshall is a decent price. Wenyen Gabriel in the mix here, 26 minutes. But he's not my favorite guy in that price range, Coach. So don't worry too much.
No, you can play him. You can play. I don't want to shame you into never playing the poor guy again.
No. He'll work his way into the rotation here.
Hey, he's talented.
One of these years, he'll be a rotation player in the NBA.
Maybe when he goes to the G League and we have
and
a
dominates.
G League DFS, then
that would be fun, right?
He's a lock and load.
Oh, lock and load in the first game out there for sure. Golden State. So if we have all those guys out, Jordan Poole is going to make a lot of sense to me, running the show there. Paschall.
Boy, is he playing good ball, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been tough.
Yeah, off the bench. So if he starts, look out.
Yeah.
Paschall Pascal, probably not in his first game back. Looney, I'm guessing he'll play 24 minutes max. But Juan Toscano-Anderson, he'll be in the mix as well if Draymond is out.
Yes.
So this one it's going to be tricky because it's the last game of the night. But you can certainly put guys in your lineup that are playing at either 9 or 9:30, and then make your final decisions right there at 8:45. And so Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Poole, Juan Toscano-Anderson, those are probably my 3 favorite targets here.
Yeah, I like this game. I'll tell you this though. The biggest takeaway I got from watching that game in person, watching when they first came out to shoot around, we were there early, watching the pregame stuff, watching the bench movement. I watch all those things that most people don't pay attention to, because that's how you really get to see where people are at,
Oh, yeah.
how they're playing, what they look like, what's, their body language. And I'll tell you what, the Pelicans, and I'm going to say this and it's going to sound crude, but they look like dog shit, man. I mean, they look like we don't like Van Gundy. We suck. I don't want to be on this team right now. Let's get the season over. I'm going to, the Virgin Islands or whatever. I got my ticket. I'm out of here. They looked awful. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 2 just like dead air balls, not moving without the ball. Bledsoe trying to be professional as the veteran was okay. The only young guy on the team that showed in little spurts that he wanted to still show out was Najee Marshall. I think he's really trying to play for his position for next year. He's the only guy I'd consider. I mean, I know I hate to do an about face on one of my favorites in Na, but he just looked atrocious. So even if he ratchets it up a notch, I'm just not crazy about his ceiling. Marshall is potentially there. Rest of the guys, same thing. James Johnson spent most of the game chirping with in a nice way with some of the Mavericks players. He went over to their bench several times. This is almost like I wish I was still with this team kind of feel. And so it just was disconnected. I mean, Adams was out, and it looked like Jackson Hayes got hurt, and then it was just a disaster. And so I would say steer clear of most of the Pelicans. That's just my eyeballs looking at it. But Najee is definitely the exception that I would consider playing. On the Golden State news, it's all news related. I mean, it's very simple. I really do hope Curry and Wiggins and Green sit. That would be phenomenal, because I love Jordan Poole and Juan Toscano-Anderson. You talk about 2 guys that are hot, playing with more confidence than I've ever seen either one of them play with, and they want to finish really, really well to solidify their spots in the rotation for next season. Because, when guys come back, from injuries and everything, it's going to change a lot of the players' roles. And so I'm going to be very excited to roster both of those guys if the people are sitting for Golden State. If Curry's going to play, I do think that they're going to smack the Pelicans, but he may be a pay-up option for me in the other spot. I mean, Bledsoe right now is their best defender on the perimeter. That's how bad it is. He tried to guard Luka, and Luka just made him look silly. And I think Curry would get his shots up. There's not a guy from the Pelicans that can dog Curry like some of the teams they played, like when Brooks or these guys played him from other teams. So Curry would be in play for me as a big pay-up guy that could, if he's going to play, maybe take a late push to try to get that scoring title and get some shots up. I don't think the rest of the guys are going to get quite, guaranteed full run if they smack them, and, don't produce the DFS points per minute like Curry does. But Wiggins has been terrific. I think he's going to get a lot of people that watched that last game. I mean, he really is playing the best of his career, in my opinion, because for the first time in his career this season, he's played both ends. He is a really good defender, and he was one of the worst in the league for his years in Minnesota. So whoever got into his ear, whatever coach, maybe it's Kerr, he's playing both ends of the court. and I respect that. But I'm not sure I'm going to go there. Everybody hates Bazemore now because of his chatter with Beal, but don't let that scare you off. You can't put those things aside. If some of the guys are out and Baze is going to play, he does step up and take a more active role offensively when guys are out. So he's in play if guys sit and he's in, but we have to see how all that happens. But I will definitely have pretty solid exposure here. 3 guys possibly from this game, 2 on Golden State, and then very likely Najee.
All right, beautiful. Well, that wraps up our 8-game slate, the preview here, middle of the day. We do hope you'll join us tonight as a member. Grab that pass that Coach was talking about at dfscoachtalk.com. We'll send you an email and invite you into our Discord, and that's where we give out the lineups about 20 minutes before lock. Coach, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, right now is the perfect time as you're clicking out. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and click the little alert up in the corner. We really, really appreciate this. We keep this 7-day-a-week podcast in front of the paywall. We'll be doing 7-day-a-week podcasts throughout the entire NBA playoffs. So we really appreciate that. And if you're listening to it on audio, same thing. 5 stars, quick comment, positive thumbs up, subscribe. We really appreciate getting higher in those algorithms on all of those sites so that we can get out there and get the word out. So appreciate you.
Wonderful. Well said. All right. On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.